That's the graphic we get to use one time a year, y'all.
Look at that.
It kind of like popped up funny. It was like RIP Bourbon Community Roundtable. We may want to work on the sequencing there.
I think it should have been Kenny's kin outfit or Fred's. I don't know what you were, Fred. It was scary, but
we were witches from Clash of the Titans, with the blind witches, and we carried an eye with us everywhere we went.
That's so many good memes set up for Kenny's kin outfit. It's coming.
Should I go grab it real quick? I can just wear that all night.
No thanks.
Now we're talking.
I'm glad I didn't fall for the hoax that I was supposed to wear my costume for this BCR.
Yeah, should try that memo next time.
We needed a theme. Yeah, we should have had a theme.
Yeah. Well, how about the theme is we show up on time?
Oh.
Dang.
I'm
just kidding. I'm
going back to my terrible mic quality where I have an excuse for being 3 minutes late.
It's all good. It's all good. That was just
blaming on the cold weather down there in Florida.
Yeah, it's chilly.
Yeah.
I'm moving slower. It's 67 degrees outside. I can't be expected to.
Surprised you're not bringing out your parkas and your Canadian goose and all that sort of stuff now.
That's tomorrow morning.
It might reach sub 50. Who knows?
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
No longer sweater weather.
Well, speaking of sweater weather, it means nothing. But you all want to start this thing?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. So this will be a fun one. Let's see who we piss off.
Everyone.
Hey, by the way, which is this number 86? Is that what we're up to now?
I don't know. And 86 is like when you get canceled.
Yeah,
this is it. This is the RIP.
We've been 86.
Oh shit.
So make it count, boys. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Bourbon Pursuit, the official podcast of bourbon. And we are with the Bourbon Community Roundtable. Everybody's here. And this is special lucky number 86. Either way, it's our Halloween episode. So what are y'all dressing up as Halloween?
Ooh, don't go at once.
Yeah, I was going to say, well,
are we all supposed to? I thought that was like, you, Kenny, or you, Ryan, and Fred. But
yeah, we'll do that.
We always start with you three.
Yeah, we'll start with us three. Then I'll lead you in. How about that? We'll make sure we don't want to confuse people. We've only done this over 80 times now. So, Fred, you go first because we were kind of talking about it a little bit before we started. You're a little bit of a dark side.
Yeah, so we take this season very seriously. We actually, my family, we have a nightly sacrifice in our yard, and people will come and watch us put a decapitated pig's head in a bowl filled with blood, and then we have like a mirrors surrounding our fence, and we have a conjuring circle. So if you look in the mirror while we have a special song going, we can capture your soul. And then we got an animatronic scarecrow to give candy to kids this year. So there'll be a little bowl of candy, and when you reach in to grab the candy, the scarecrow will get you. And I'm going to be something really creepy, but that's I don't want to say what I am just yet. So we take this stuff seriously.
It sounds like it. That's intense.
Yeah.
Well, you used to live, Kenny used to live in like the mecca of Halloween in Louisville on that street there.
I did, man. Halloween was a huge part of my life, and that's what anybody that has been listening to us since the very beginning. I used to live on this road in Louisville called Hillcrest Avenue. It's been featured on AOL.com and national headlines. It's basically like
whoa. AOL.
Back when AOL was like a thing, okay, all right. This is not when they used to send CDs in the mail, but a little bit afterwards.
That's when you know you've made it. When you hit the front page of AOL.com.
It's
Netscape's coming next, I bet.
We were very
that was
proud
the
of
print
ourselves.
version, though, was the mail version.
All right, so it was just like one step above your local news, but either way, it was a fun time. I consider myself a Halloween engineer at a point in my life, and I would actually start building Halloween decorations starting in July for Halloween coming up, and that's kind of my thing. I had a huge elaborate front yard with It had a air compressor that ran. I think it was like a 30 or 40 gallon air compressor. It ran a bunch of different things. It was all synced to music and lights and all this other kind of stuff. So it was a big time in my life. I miss it a lot. But the one thing that happens though is that we moved from that particular location, and I have a thing about me, and it's probably with a lot of you all, is that we're really driven, we're determined. We find something we really love, and I've had to fill that void, and I filled that void with bourbon. And so hence the reason why Bourbon Pursuit and Pursuit Spirits exist today.
Yeah, those air compressor skills are coming in handy as we're setting up pumps and all this pneumatic, because you can't have electric anything in distilleries. So that's coming in quite handy. So all those Halloween years were leading to something, not just for one time a year.
It's fun, man. Hooking up air hoses and knowing how to do all those connections. I used to love it because I had all kinds of pistons and stuff. But Ryan, what are you going to do for Halloween this
Well, I was
year?
going to say next we need a light show in our warehouse every time I walk in, with house music.
Do not tempt me, my friend. That sounds almost too fun.
Yeah. I'm probably going to be maybe a master distiller for Halloween or something. I don't know. I really, Halloween, I don't get into it as like you all do. So I really don't have any plans. Yeah, I'm lame in that regard. I guess I need an idea.
We'll think of something halfway through here.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds good. And then since nobody asked me, so my wife.
Well, we already knew what you are. You're kin. You blasted all over social media.
We've seen it.
Yeah, people have seen it, but we haven't done it since this recording. So of course, my wife and my daughter, and we fall in line with everything Barbie this year. And so of course, my name's Kenny. So I dressed as Ken, but I went the easy route. I didn't do like vintage cowboy Ken or roller skating Ken with the 80s outfit. Instead, it was just am Knuff, and it's the sweatshirt that he wears at the very end. So all I do is wear a sweatshirt that was $30 on Amazon. Super simple. But let's go ahead and hit the round table.
The connection of Ken and Kenny. I just thought it was because you look like Ryan Gosling.
I am so Gosling right now. I am very much Gosling. It's honestly like looking in a mirror.
You're back in Kenny's good graces after that.
Always said that. And because we look so much alike, I mean, obviously it's
might as well be triplets at this point.
The Gosling twins.
All right. Well, Blake, you spoke up, so go ahead, introduce yourself and what you're doing for Halloween.
I mean, I feel like we should kind of take this to a vote of, do you dress up as an adult or not? Sounds like Ryan's on my side. I do not dress up. I do not get that too far into Halloween. The extent we go is there's a massive spider I pull down out of the attic every year that our kids just like go and put in trees and everything else like that. Every other decoration we have has been broken at some point. So yeah, unfortunately, no Halloween costumes for me. I just try to make drinks, so everybody bringing their kids around trick-or-treating wants to stop by our house and say hello. So that's my Halloween celebration.
It's actually good. I've heard of a lot of people that basically set up you have the kids that trick or treat, and you have the parents that come by, and there's usually a table full of either alcohol or beers or something. I'm okay with that. I think that's a very safe, responsible way to get rid of your excess inventory.
Yeah, we pretty
really
much we take a wagon. We take a wagon, we fill it up. Parents have the wagon, adults walk around with that, got coolers in it. That works out pretty well.
Awesome. Well, Nick, what are you going to do for Halloween?
So I'm kind of following the Kenny logic there. My whole office is going to dress up as Barbie characters. I haven't figured out which Ken I'm going to be yet. But actually, guys, talking about the neighborhood things and what your neighborhood used to be like. So a friend of mine I grew up with in high school, he has the most insane display you've ever seen. It's called, actually, you can look it up. It's called Halloween on Ambush. He's basically built this like Pirates of the Caribbean replica ship, castle, dungeon. He has actors come out. He's got fog, he's got fire, he's got the whole music synced up to it, and it's pretty insane. So like each year he makes it bigger and bigger. But you want to give a shout out to him because he just goes nuts building this thing up to the point where the town, the fire department, police department actually like sets times and days and like routes traffic because it fills his whole neighborhood plus the whole area around him, which is just insane. So people going crazy for Halloween, not really the thing I could ever do. I don't think I would ever do, but it's cool when someone really, gets into it like that. So a lot of fun.
Has he ever made AOL.com?
I don't know. He's been on all like the Sunday morning and all that shit, but AOL.com, I'm not sure if he's made that.
I'm
That's how
giving
you
Kenny the
really
crown, but I'd
know.
like to see pictures of both. I'd like to see pictures of both.
There is a bar
Get
to
the
work towards
pneumatics
now.
going.
Yes. Actually, you can kind of, if anybody that's bored after you get done listening to this recording, but you can go on YouTube. I've got some old YouTube videos out there. So it's called Halloween on Hillcrest, and you can go and check out some of my old videos that are up there. Don't do it, guys. Come on, we can focus on the conversation here. You guys, I can see everybody start typing in stuff. Right
Don't
now.
click. Don't click.
See, he sees us all look down at our keyboard at once.
Yeah, exactly. And Brian from Sippin' Corn, what about you?
Well, I'm going to make it a tie. It's 3-3. I'm the Ryan and the Blake route here. I have about a 30-year-old hockey jersey, and I put that on once a year, every Halloween, and that's about it. I do the bourbon available for the adults coming by in the neighborhood. Other than that, minimal decorations for Halloween and minimal effort.
You know, I just kind of thought about this. I saw a picture earlier of Paul Rudd, and you could probably almost pull this off because he had a great character that he dressed up as, and that's Weird Al Yankovic. And I think you could probably
Ooh.
pull that off.
I could do it. Am I going to put the effort in to do it?
It's a wig and a Hawaiian shirt. I think you can do it, man.
Just give me an accordion. I got to go all in. I'm doing accordion or nothing.
So I can see a 3-hole punch Bryant, right? Just 3.
Amish Paradise. I think that'd be great.
That's right. I can do it. I know the words.
All right. Well, that was kind of fun to kind of talk a little off topic of just what's going on in our lives and Halloween and everything like that. But let's kind of move into the subject of discussion tonight, and that is the daily drinker. And this kind of goes back into the theme of some of the deeper topics that I've been thinking about recently. And one of the things that I thought about was I think the daily drinker should probably be dead. But before we get into that, I kind of want to talk to you all because when we came into this hobby, let's say almost 10 years ago now, Fred maybe a little bit longer than us, we probably all actually had a daily drinker. I know I did. I was, and this is, by the way, when we start dating ourselves now, this is when we start talking about how fortunate we are. But I mean, Weller 12 was pretty easy to come by. I always was able to kind of get a bottle, and that was kind of the one that was easy to go to. What about you all? Did you all have a daily drinker back in the day when maybe you only had 10 bottles on the shelf?
I had a brand called Henry McKenna. That was my daily drinker, and I kind of screwed that up. So it then became Old Forester 1920, which I think daily drinker is also a bit of a price point thing. You know, it's like some people, a daily drinker might be 15-year-old Macallan, and some people it may be Evan Williams bottled to bond. So I think it's like what is your income that can allow you to increase it? Also, like, I mean, how much are you drinking in a day? Are you drinking one? You drinking the whole bottle? You know, I mean, I think that's a little bit of it as well. But I don't think the daily drinker's dead. I think it's far from dead. There's still so much incredible value under $60. And I would put Four Roses, single barrel, small batch select up against most of these $200 bourbons coming out, as well as, you know, Elijah Craig or Evan Williams bottled to bond, Wild Turkey 101, Rare Breed. Those are all daily drinkers, and they still whip the ass of most of these, limited edition MGP knockoffs coming on the market.
All right. Well, Fred just basically put the cart before the horse and answered everything for the entire show. So you guys, should we just go ahead and call it now?
All right.
See you later, Fred.
Fred said he only had 10 minutes tonight, so he's out now. I got his points in. He's
the
out.
RIP 86.
Oh man, that was a quick one. But you know, before we do dive into a lot of, because Fred hit on a lot of the points that we probably want to dive into more. But did you all have a daily drinker that you kind of went to, or maybe you still do?
Yeah, back in that time
think
frame.
I ever had
go ahead.
a go-to.
Go ahead, Blake.
Oh, sorry, Brian. I don't think I ever really had a go-to. I think, you know, the thing that always drew me into bourbon was just the difference between bottles. So I was kind of always bouncing around a bit. there'd be 2 to 3 bottles, but the daily drinker is just never one that I'm like, okay, 5 nights in a row, I want to have that. Like, my personality just doesn't really work that way. That sounds really boring to just say, yep, I'm going to drink the same thing every single night. Like, there were definitely, I'd say, a daily drinking shelf or location of maybe 5 to 6 bottles that I don't feel bad pouring 2 pours from and keep going. But as for one specific bottle, that was just never something I really did.
So even when you only had maybe 5 or 10 bottles, you're just kinda getting into it and buying repeat purchases, did you have that bottle, or was it or did you were you just a expert from the beginning?
No, never an expert. I think the fun of it was always just trying different stuff and seeing how many bottles I could hide from my wife so she didn't realize how many I'd bought. No, but, I mean, I feel like I'd go early on, 10 years ago, and it's like you have the regulars like the Makers and a Buffalo Trace and some of this other stuff, but then stop by a store, and that's where I think the closest I probably got was Rare Breed, where I feel like I just really loved that bottle and still do, but I drink it 3 to 4 days, but then it's like, "Oh, well, I wanna try this, and I wanna see if it changes flavors or if it's different, or I'm just lying to myself and it's a reason to drink more of the bottle." So um no, I mean, I think that was always kind of the fun for me, was just the variety and trying different things.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
back in
Brian.
the dark ages when I only had, like you say, Kenny, 5 bottles at a time or something. I think of daily drinkers. What would I always have? What was there that I'd just go get as soon as I'd run out? I'd go down to Evergreen in Middletown and I'd get the Weller 12 for $26. And when I was done with my Elijah Craig 12, and that old bottle with the red 12. I mean, it's a long ass time ago, but those were the two that I'd always had no matter what. Those were kind of the go-to inexpensive price performers for me when I'm just having 5 or 6 bottles total.
Yeah, and I should also say that, Weller 12, like, how did you discover that one? For me, it took me a while to had somebody else that taught me about Weller 12, and that's when I discovered it. What about you?
Yeah, for me, it was the guys at Evergreen. This is, I didn't know what it was. You knew a little bit about weeded bourbon then. You knew it was makers. Pappy was behind the glass, but it was there. And then, just talking to the guys and, they recommended it. And I'll, remember when it went downhill is I walk in and it wasn't there to replace my bottle. And they had started keeping it in the back. And I knew them, so they went and back and got me one. But then it only was a few months later they didn't even have that. But it was it's those relationships, which I don't know that those exist too terribly much anymore with liquor stores. But that's how I learned about it.
Nick, what about you?
Yeah, so so can I answer the one question first, but I had a different perspective even on your question, the whole question, Kenny. So daily drinker, I think for me, trying to think back, 1792 and Weller were probably the two fairly, always had them, bourbons. Part of it was I only maybe had 2 or 3 bottles at a time, and they lasted a while. So, I just didn't have this kind of deep collection that I had today. You didn't really buy another bottle till one ran out, so that was the idea, that you wouldn't go buy a new one till you finished the 1 or 2 that you had. And I think that's how maybe a lot of people start or how they are. But thinking about the kind of perspective of the question is, we're bourbon drinkers as a whole, or more in aggregate, more inclined to have, 1 or 2, maybe just one, 2 or 3 brands that they tended to just drink all the time. And you had really kind of like a small number of brands. You didn't really need to spend much money for them. People had the flavor profiles they liked, pretty good whiskey available all the time. And now we're seeing this kind of change in consumerism, the idea of just all the new stuff. Everything is limited, everything is unique, everything is different. If you're not reinventing and coming up with new brands, are you getting the consumer? And so now I see people who right off the bat, I want to get a lot, I want to build that collection right away. I want to try many different things right away. Maybe it's just the circles I tend to, the people I tend to talk to, but I'm finding more and more people feel like they're in that camp where there isn't really the desire just to have, the one thing they want or the one thing they're used to, but rather try different things. And so I wonder if consumers as a whole are really taking a shift. I haven't looked at data on any of this, but are taking a shift towards this idea of, wanting many, many different brands and trying different things, as opposed to just sticking with the tried and true, as maybe had been the case 2 or 3 decades ago in aggregate.
Yep. And that'll probably dovetail on to what I'll talk about, but I'll let Ryan talk and see what his daily drinker was back in the day, or if it still exists.
I discovered Henry McKenna well before Fred Minnick did. I just want to put that on record. But
Sounds like a
I remember introducing.
You must have been like 17 then.
I remember I had
12
because my I know I'm kidding.
Don't put it past him.
I knew I had Henry McKenna before I knew Fred Minnick. I will say that because I remember introducing it to Kenny one time. He brought over like Elmer's and Weller's and this and that, and he was like, "This is just okay," because he was like on the "I'm a stag man" and this and that. But anyways,
were those the mustache days?
It was the nasty curly ass mustache.
Don't say nasty. Like, come on. Like, I could have been behind a back bar somewhere wearing some, a denim apron and making cocktails. Like, that was the look that I had.
There was 20 grams of wax in that thing. It was gross. But anyways, thinking back, I was thinking about like probably like you all say the 5 bottles that I always had, and if I ran out, I would go buy it again. And Weller 107 was definitely one of those. Elijah Craig was probably the first one, nice one. Evan Williams 1783, I always liked. And one that I kind of had that not that time period knew was Johnny Drum. It was like just because I was buddy with Drew, and I think at the time it was like a 12 or 15-year-old bottle, and it was like sub $30.
Yeah, they had a lot of old whiskey back then, and that was great.
But those are the ones that I could remember constantly. If I ran out, I would go replace them. And then, like everyone else, you just start to buy everything and trying everything because you get kind of bored with those everyday items.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and I want to bring up this question from Jeff Perkins. He asked, perhaps we need to redefine or talk about what is the daily drinker. He said, is it the first pour of the night to get the palate warmed up, or is it something that's in your budget and readily available? In my opinion, and kind of the way I wanted to frame this was the daily drinker. Like, what do you drink on a daily basis? I mean, that's the same thing as when somebody comes and asks you and they say, hey, what's a great bourbon that you would recommend every single day for me to get? And of course, we'll always say, well, what's your price point? But it's not really budget because everybody's budget's a little bit different, as Fred kind of said. But this is just something that you always go to. It's your go-to, and that's the kind of thing that I want to hit on, is saying, like, what's that go-to?
I would say you buy multiple bottles of it a year. The same thing, not just your budget drinker. You're purchasing your. Once you run out, you go get it again. You run out, you go get it again. So that's what I would allude to.
Exactly. And that was to also follow up on Bill's question is the daily drinker what you drink that's under $60 or after warming up with something over 60? Again, not to put a price point on this or anything like that. It's just to kind of just, as Ryan said. But here's my theory, and we'll go ahead and we'll kind of start breaking this down. So my theory is that all of us, whether you're listening to this, you're watching this on YouTube, you're on this panel, you are somebody that is in the Facebook forums, you're a purchaser off a Seal Box, you're a reader on Breaking Bourbon, you're a subscriber to fredminnick.com, you are a purchaser of a book from Sip and Corn. You live right now in the greatest time in American whiskey history. I said it. The way that I look at it is that there are more brands, more things to try on the shelf than there ever has before. No longer do you have to worry about just having 6 different distilleries that make all the whiskey that you have a choice of on the shelf that's rebranded 50 different ways. But instead, everything's coming from tons and tons and tons of places, not just Kentucky, not just NDPs, but anywhere from outside in all the United States as well. And so when I look at that, I kind of looked at it and I think, why do people pigeonhole themselves in drinking the same thing all the time? And this isn't for the people that come into a liquor store because they've ran out of their bottle of makers and they need to replenish their bottle of makers. Those people are not what we would call in our circle, right? Those are Those are the people that just have the bottle of bourbon. That's what they go for, and they don't know. We are the neophytes. We are always the 1% of bourbon that are always trying to find the next best thing, always trying to talk about it. So when I get asked the question, what's your daily drinker? What's your go-to? I've replied back and I said, I don't have one. I don't think I've had one in probably 5 or 6 years now. Because the way that I think about it is I can go down to my basement down here to my bar, and I know what I'm in the mood for. I don't want something chocolatey. Do I want something sweet? Do I want something that has some rye spice? Do I want some vanilla, some caramel, like whatever it is. And I can look at my bar and think like that's what I want. And I don't feel that I'm putting myself into a pocket of saying, well, this is what I go to. This is what I always drink. But this is kind of where I'm going to start advocating for other people to start thinking, well, yeah, I know that there's Buffalo Trace on the shelf. I know that there's Eagle Rare on the shelf. And this goes back into one of our old episodes. It's like, well, why do you keep drinking it? Why do you keep buying it? Knowing that there are so many other things in the world that you can try and you can go for. And I'm not picking on Sazerac. It could be Henry McKenna. It could be 50,000 other different products out there. And it doesn't have to be popular. It could be like, even if you like your small little craft brand that sits in your little neck of the woods and you just keep buying it. Again, there are so many other things out there that you can try. So that's my theory. And I kind of want to put it out there and have you all kind of either start picking apart and figuring out, where do you see, are you in alignment with it? Or do you think that, hey, there's still room as somebody that is in what we would call our people, our circle of whiskey neophytes, the people that are always looking for the next great thing, or the people that consider themselves either an expert or just a moderate enthusiast? Should you still have a daily drinker?
I love that perspective, Kenny. That's a very insightful. This come up in conversations I've had, with people who look at new things they haven't had before, and rolling the dice on bottles that are 50, 75, $80 a pop, as kind of the new norm of where you see things that start to push the limits and things. Somebody has 2, 3, 4 that they don't care for. I think for some people that is that makes them hesitate on that new undiscovered craft brand, things of that nature. So I think there's a budgetary constraint that just is real. $200, $300, $400, $500 deep, and you haven't really found anything you like. You're gonna maybe swing back to that one that you're gonna like and is good. So is it impossible to become an enthusiast if you don't have the budget to do so? How much of this is just limited by budget versus just people's desire to try and taste different things?
Now we're being all too polite to wait for the other guy.
I was like, come on, guys.
I'll tear it apart. I mean, I think it's, in my personal opinion, if we're talking enthusiast who is listening to this and into bourbon and everything else, I think it's always been dead. I don't think, not that it's always been dead, but I'd say 99.5% of this audience has never been the person who just went and picked up a handle of Jack every Friday. And that's out there. And sure, I think it's still way more prevalent within vodka. Sorry, Fred, but like Tito's and soda is still the drink for the majority of that crowd. And Jack and Coke is still a thing if you go to a bar, but in general, that's not who we're talking about. That's not really our audience. So I think it's the daily drinker has always been dead and will continue to be dead, hopefully, because there, like you said, there's just so much good stuff out there. Why would you pigeonhole yourself to one bottle? I don't think it's a bad thing. Like if you just even if it's a price point thing, there are $50, $30 bottles that you could be trying each time that bottle runs out and going on to the next one. So to me, it's always been dead for our group that we're a part of. And I hope it stays that way. So
I think you have a daily drinker when you have 5 or 6 bottles at any given time. I mean, that's the sign of that you probably have a daily drinker. When you have as many as you said, Kenny, in a What kind of enthusiast? I forgot already. It was funny.
Let's just say you have probably over 20 bottles.
But let's
do you think that's a healthy gauge? Like if you're over $20 or 20 bottles, you think you're entering into that? Like the hook has kind of got you.
The hook is set, yeah, and you will be unhealthy real quick. But that's why we love everybody. But I think you have that daily drinker when you have that smaller view of bourbon, and then once you, as Blake is saying, once you start discovering that there's more out there, then you don't necessarily have your daily go-to that you're absolutely going to get a new bottle when it's gone. But there is still room to have favorites, and I don't want to diminish that. I mean, we've all got our favorites, and it goes with our individual profiles that we end up liking. So keep having your favorites, keep getting those, but balance it with exploring, because there's so much out there to try that's different, that just doesn't get pigeonholed with those primary producers in Kentucky. And I think that's what I learned as I got more and more bottles and was able to taste a lot of different types of bourbon.
I think when you look at like the psyche of a daily drinker, it kind of falls in the same line of, I mean, how many people go to the same restaurant and order the exact same thing all the time? They just know what they like. They know what they want. And yeah, they will change it up. They'll go to a different restaurant and they'll get a filet mignon instead of a strip steak or something like that. Like they will do that.
I was going to think you'd be like swapping out cheddar cheese for provolone, like in a hamburger. Like that's as far as they're going to go.
It will. I mean, sometimes, but those people, they stayed in the steak category in my example, but they will switch it up, but they know what they like and they've been burned before. And I saw this with the rise of Hudson. When Hudson came out, that bottle burned so many people in bourbon, and I think Hudson kept it. It closed the door for so many craft distillers that are coming out. These traditional Kentucky bourbon guys, they wanted to try it, they wanted to explore. They're like, tasted it, like, oh fuck that, I ain't ever leaving Kentucky bourbon again. And so they stayed in that kind of little niche. So, and even I'm that way sometimes. I mean, I have every bottle, that I can get. I mean, my office I'm tripping over bottles. But when I'm sitting down and I'm watching a movie or I'm going to watch a baseball game and I don't want to think about the bourbon, I just know the taste, I love it, I'm going to pick one of the 30 bottles that I have in my rotation as my daily drinker. Now, I'm not drinking it every day. But those are things that are in my rotation. But I just think I think it's along those same lines. And it is it's frustrating because there are a lot of great products out there that could be a daily drinker. One of the, a daily drinker for me is Woodinville out of the state of Washington. And you know how many people don't like Woodinville? I'm sorry. I love it. I think they make a great product. And that's when I'm in a particular mood, like you are, Kenny, when you're wanting a particular note, like when I want something that's
I'd
like
say for Woodinville, can be like apple pie, because that's what I always get. It's
pie. Yeah, it's a pie oriented. Mine's a little different. It's not apple pie, but it's pie. But it's when I'm in that mood, there's nothing else that will suffice that taste I want. So I just think the reason why people fall with they continue with the daily drinker, it's as simple as that we are creatures of comfort. And an old sergeant major told me a long time ago that we will always repeat and do the same thing over and over again as individuals, not society, because we are creatures of comfort. And every time we have a new comfort added, we'll have a new kind of like a new rotation to our life. But it's that simple for most people.
Yeah. To say, Fred, that tasting note is not marzipan that you're typically after in the.
Man, I tell you what, when I'm craving marzipan, I end up tasting like 30 things because I'm like, oh, I thought I tasted it in that. Oh, what about this one? That's a
barrel batch 11, right?
That's
whole
usually
different experience.
Yeah, batch 11, barrel batch 11 was the money one, but a lot of Bookers have marzipan in it. And there's one the other day I tasted. It was a barrel pick I did. What was the barrel? I can't remember, but there was a marzipan note in there. Oh, Hemingway rye. It was a Hemingway rye. There was a marzipan note in that.
Really interesting. Yeah, this is Kenny, I wish you, before we start a brand of creating an everyday drinker, you said the everyday drinker was dead. But anyways,
we should have one, right? It make things a lot easier if we need to sell bottles.
But anyways, yeah, this is one because I don't know that it's dead, because me as a consumer, I like, those 5 or 6 bottles that I'll constantly, now I won't have them every day, but I'll rotate them, throughout the week, like based on mood. But I don't really tap into my like limited special, like all this stuff until friends come over. And so that's what my daily drinkers are stuff that like I'm not worthy to drink by myself, or I'm only worthy to drink by myself and not share with, I'm not going to drink it just by myself. So, um, I kind of miss that too about bourbon. It's like, I just want something that I can go to the store and know that I like. It's like, and that's what's kind of frustrating too. Like when you talk to consumers and you're like, oh, I really like that one. You're like, well, you want to try it again? No, I've already had that one. You're like, well, you liked it. What, that makes no sense to me that if you like something, why aren't you rebuying it? And it's got to be frustrating for brands. Like, customer acquisition cost is like so expensive. And, just to grab their mind share for one bottle every 2 or 3 years, that's like really hard as a producer. But I mean, to be realistic, most of these brands live off people that's their makers, that's their beam, that's their turkey, that's, that they're going to constantly over and over, and they ain't switching. It's just like the paid person that smoked Marlboro Lights wasn't going to smoke Camels, wasn't going to smoke Lucky Strikes. They just had their mind set on that. And so I agree probably with the whiskey enthusiasts. The daily drinker is diminishing, but I don't know that it's dead. I think there's a lot of folks that when they're by themselves, they're not going after all those crazy rare, limited bottles all the time. But yes, you should try things and expand your horizons. Don't just limit yourself to the 5 or 6 major players with their one mash bill branded 10 different ways. And you have their bottom tier and you have their top tier and you think they're different, but they're not. And so it's like, go out there and try and expand. And yes, you can have yours that you go back to, but also expand your horizons. Woodinville's a great example, Fred. They make great stuff.
Absolutely. And so there's actually a really good quote in here from Matt Cusick, and I'll go ahead and put it out here. And he said, it's actually an awful time to be an uneducated consumer. And there was a lot of talk in there about what does it look like to actually find something that you would actually want to go back to and actually want to drink every single day. And in the chat, people were blowing up, and it's like, oh, it's MGP branded 20 different ways, or it's all this. And as Brian said, even if it's from the big 6, it's the same 3 mash bills branded 50 different ways. And from a daily drinker perspective, I think this takes a little bit of a different direction, because you don't know what's good. And I think that goes back to what Fred said, is that people go to what they are comfortable with. And even to what Nick had said earlier, people don't, if you get burned by a $50 craft whiskey, you probably don't want to buy another one. So other than sampling, like, what are other ways that people can discover things that wouldn't pigeonhole them into a daily drinker? Do you think it's always going to be, is it social media? Is it the samples when you're walking in the door? Is it the YouTubers? Like, what do you all feel is a way to sort of kind of like breaking away from this mold of, and Blake, by the way, I do want to compliment you. There's a lot of people that even said, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Blake on this, because you had a really great point of like, maybe for us and everybody that's here, the daily drinker is dead. Even if you had an opportunity to buy, and maybe it is a bad analogy. It's like if you eat filet mignon every single night, do you want to eat filet mignon? So if you had the opportunity to drink William Llewellyn every single night, would you do it? You'd probably get bored of it. That's probably the real case.
So what's interesting
most people in my life agreeing with me is a very tough thing to do. So I get it. I get it why that is.
So I was going to say, so I remember when I kind of moved personally from, just having 1 or 2 different bottles to that kind of quick expansion to suddenly it was 10, then it was 20. And Eric and Jordan, who, the other two Breaking Bourbon guys, we're all in this together. So we'd only get together once or twice a year, and it kind of turned into like, oh, we're going to get together, we're going to drink bourbon. So we'd each be looking for a bunch of bottles to bring, to these get-togethers, because we all lived in different places. And, we found ourselves standing at liquor stores and on our phones right when smartphones really became a thing. And we were having a really tough time trying to figure out what the hell was what, who made what was good, what wasn't good. And incidentally, that's what kind of got us prompted to create Breaking Bourbon. Like, we envisioned ourselves standing there at the liquor store, not sure what to get. And we thought, how do we come up with some, a website and a review process, everything that we can convey that to people, very quickly, so they can make those decisions and navigate through what is something that already, say with beer, for example, you've got a good bunch of good resources, already existed at the time. So that's why we did that. And, that's why we actually have designed Breaking Bourbon, for that very purpose, is so people can get a sense of, is this going to be a bottle for me or not? The thing that's tricky though is taste. So everyone's taste is going to be different. Sometimes we agree on stuff, sometimes we don't, among the three of us. So you've got to still have that, you got to still get that sensory experience yourself. And I think that's the challenge of it. I do know a lot of liquor stores, at least local ones, they will have open bottles to sample, things like that. You can ask them, if budget's a concern, or just look, hey, let me taste through 5 different things. I'm going to buy a bottle, but man, it'd be great to know if it's the one I like out of this 5. So if you find those local stores, if they do exist in your area, I think that's a great way to kind of start to dig into that. And getting those experiences, swapping with friends, samples and things like that. I know a lot of people do that in online groups and local groups and things, where you can just try a lot of different stuff and kind of expand that without going too deep into the budget.
I agree with that. That's great points. And it's fall, it's fire pit season, guys. So go start up a fire pit, get 6 guys over, everybody bring a bourbon that he hadn't tried before, and everybody try it. I mean, that's spread the risk, basically. There's going to be some turds in there. There's going to be something that you like. Not all of you will like the same things, just like Nick is saying, but just try these bourbons, and you'll find a new bourbon that you want to go to for a while.
I'll throw another one in there. What if, let's say you're getting together with a group of 5, 10 people, everybody pitches in $10. And that way, you pitch in 5 or 10, $10. You also bring your own bottle, but whoever's in charge, they go buy a bottle that's something that nobody else is going to bring. Therefore, you get a chance to try something new for everybody. And I think that's another way to help break that mold as well.
Someone in the group is going to bring Kessler's or some kind of shit like that.
They pocket the rest of it.
Speaking of, I saw a bottle of Kessler's empty on Fred's porch the other day when I was
yes, that was a part of my taste camp.
Sacrifice. Sacrifice you made that night.
That's the bloody pig's head.
So for my taste camp, I had everyone get Kessler's so they could taste what something really awful tasted like. And so we had it left over, and then I give my empty bottles to a guy who makes soap dispensers out of them. So we just poured that out, and so good one, very good one, Ryan. Good one.
He's very astute. He notices stuff, doesn't he?
I do, especially Fred. But two, there's we've been working these whiskey festivals across the country, not just like Bourbon Fest. There's those big ones, but there's a lot of regional whiskey festivals that you can go to in your area, and 20 to 50 brands will come and pour samples out, and the price of admission might be $50-$100, but you get to try so much and learn and you get to learn and educate. I fear that the consumer now just really, whereas 10 years ago I feel like we were all just like so into it and like asking questions and wanting to understand and like wanting to know more. And I feel like a lot of the new consumers just don't give a shit. They're like, does it say toasted? Is it Amberana? Is it, what's your age? Is it single barrel? They think they know these buzzwords, and that's what they go after. And like, I just feel like it's a different mindset. Whereas we were all just like really interested in the spirits and the category and the history and whatnot. But whiskey festivals to me are like a home run because you just get a wide array of assortment of trying things.
Feels like that's a Green Day song, you know. You just like you like we're going right around like the time of our lives, you know, into
When
a
I come
whiskey
around.
fest. Yeah. It was that was nice. Well said. I mean, that the thing is that we have to realize that we talk about this all the time. The audience we're talking to here, the people who read Brian's books, who listen to our podcast, read Breaking Bourbon. I mean, they're not investing as the general consumer is not investing the time. They're going off of what someone says that they should drink, and they don't want to spend too much time in that world. And even when someone says they're a bourbon drinker, you actually get to talking to them. They're not a bourbon drinker. They have a bourbon maybe once a month. So I don't know. I, I think that we also are in a time where there's so much dilution there's so many SKUs, there's so many products, and there's so many NDPs just diluting everything, and celebrity brands diluting the category, that it's actually, if you're new coming in the category, like Matt said, if you're uneducated, man, it's a shitty time. But even if you get yourself educated, it's tough. But
even to get yourself educated, I mean, what do you think, Fred? If you get yourself educated to the point where you start knowing, you know how to read the back of a label, and you understand what a mash bill is, and you know that, okay, well, these 5 bottles are the same, but there's all this other stuff over here. I mean, is this still not the greatest time to be alive as an American whiskey consumer?
is this the greatest time to be alive as an American whiskey consumer? Huh. Are we talking? I mean, if you take out like the
Because of choice. You have
ridiculous.
choice.
Okay, if we take out pricing,
Yeah, pricing's aside. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
been one of the things on the chat that people have gotten really hung up on. They're like, "Well, what's the price? Is it $60? Is it 20? Is it whatever?" It's like, pricing be damned. Like, everybody's pocketbooks are different.
I used to think like that, and then I sort of came around to, I think pricing is important. I just don't know how to like judge a whiskey based on you can't give something a score and great tasting notes and then dock it because it's a certain price. You know, you just can't do that. But I do think from a selection that's out there, we have reached so many different flavor profiles in American whiskey. If you want to include like the rise of American single malts, it's an amazing time to be a whiskey lover. It absolutely is. But there's still a lot of shit out there. You know, like Brian was saying earlier, sometimes you gotta wade through the turds to get to the good stuff. And that's the bad part of it all, is if you can find someone to help guide you through the turds to get to the good stuff, that's the good part of that's the good way of getting educated.
But that's part of the experience, though, too. I think. I mean, not to discount that, but to find out.
Not tasting turds. Tasting turds is part of the experience.
Tasting turds, right? That's Halloween, the Halloween theme, right? That gets really scary. No, I mean, but you got to find out what you don't like too, and you're gonna learn a lot from your mistakes. I mean, that might cause you to say, what is this? What am I drinking? And you learn and say, oh, you know what? I realize now it's 18 months old, and I go do some research. Oh, I didn't really know much about ages, but I know that's, very difficult to get something that tastes good at only 18 months. So I mean, I think
so
that's
damn diplomatic.
But I think that's part of it, though, right? I mean, to Kenny's point, it is great to see all this new stuff coming out all the time. It's great to see new flavor profiles. It's great that the stigma around being a non-distiller producer and actually like blending and focusing on what's in the bottle has been largely shed. I mean, granted, you still got to pay attention. There's still kind of the same thing across a lot of brands if you don't pay attention. But I mean, I think we're seeing all of that just to the point because we do have this consumer group like us that is into it and that's willing to put money and effort and go travel to these places and visit distilleries and all that stuff so that it can be supported, right? Because if we weren't interested, they wouldn't be doing it. So the fact that there's more and more interest, and sometimes you complain about, oh man, look at all these people in it, but without them, you wouldn't have the brands. They wouldn't have the ability to produce stuff or the desire to if they didn't have the consumers that wanted it. So I agree with that, Kenny. I think it is a great time. I think it's great to see people still trying to do something different and unique and still having fun with it.
Yeah,
And
I try to look. Well,
go ahead.
Because we are these like diehard into it whiskey consumers. I try to put myself look at it from my wife and I and our journey in the wine world. And so like how we act in that space, because we're not enthusiasts by any means, but we are wine drinkers, and there's probably a rotation of 6 bottles that we constantly buy that we know we like. They're not fancy, but they're in the $20 to $40 range, which is pretty expensive for wine because you're only getting 4 glasses. But we'll do Napa, we'll splurge where we get, a $7,500 bottle, maybe 10 to 12 bottles a year. And I think that's probably most consumers that you're going to have there's 3 consumers basically in this space. There's, the people that are just going to brand loyalists. They're only going to buy OFO handles or makers handles. That then you're going to have the person that has 5 to 6 bottles, and then they'll splurge on maybe 5 more that are kind of limited edition special. And then you have us, and most of the people live in that middle, I think. And it's like, how do you? I think brands and that's what most consumers are. And I guess Kenny's I don't know what Kenny's point of this is. Ultimate is that you're wanting that middle stage to move towards enthusiast, or are you wanting because I think there's room for both of them, and I think that's where most people live, and you want everyone to. I get what you're saying. You want everyone to kind of experiment and buy more bottles and try different things, but I think most people live in that middle ground.
Well, if you're wondering what I'm looking for, it's just clickbait headlines. That's it. That's all we're ever looking for.
Fair enough.
It's the top 10 bottles that are better than blends. That's all I'm ever looking for.
Yeah, but when Pursuit United comes out with the everyday drinker and you start marketing that, you're gonna have all kinds of memes coming out from this episode. So
you know what, Fred? I would absolutely love it. Please roast us. Please blow us up.
We'll take it.
Please put us on billboards, on New York Times, Times Square, whatever it is.
AOL.
I will take it. Yeah, AOL.com. Put it there.
Kenny's whole marketing plan unfolds before us now. This is all going to be edited out.
I'm planting seeds, y'all. That's all it is. And then last thing I'll say, because Randy had a great quote here that says the best time will be in 10 years when we've actually seen all these expanded distilleries, and potentially there might be a glut again. Who knows? He says maybe we can buy older bourbon at cheaper prices. I'm going to kind of be on the fence on that one. I don't know if that's going to ever go back down. I don't think it's going to happen.
There's not a glut coming. It's all going to Europe and Asia. Sorry.
I think it's gonna plateau is what it's gonna do, but it's not gonna go back down. I still think that the days of you trying to get 12-year anything, you're still gonna cost X amount of whatever it is today.
I wonder, is there another high level hobby where the fans root for a category's demise? It's just so
that's true.
How
someone
sick we are in the head.
Someone mentioned in the chat earlier, when are we going to get that psychology interview going? I know we have that scheduled in January, right, Kenny?
We're working on it.
But I mean, that's one of the questions we got to bring up. Why is it? Because it's not just Randy. I'd say it's 3/4 of the bourbon geeks out there just absolutely want to see bourbon shatter.
I think the past 5 years, and every single group, every single day, somebody has said, "When's the bubble gonna pop?"
Yeah, but even 10 years ago, it was that way. And Chuck Cowder, you go into straightbourbon.com, 2008, they were talking about it. It's something. It's built in the DNA of being a bourbon fan. It's you have to secretly hate it as well.
Yeah,
can't tell you how many people would post
a long time ago.
Yeah, there'd be a post at least once a week on Bourbon or on the Pappy Van Winkle release maps of, I can't wait till all these hipsters in their flannel shirts stop buying my Pappy so I can find it on the shelf again. I'm like, well, that's just not how this works. But, there is a lot of whiskey coming online. There's no doubt about that. So, I won't fully say I completely agree with Randy, but I do think there will be, like Kenny said, a plateau at some point, but we're still a long ways out.
Yeah. I think there's a reckoning of some of these like brands that have no passion behind them, and that's going to happen. Like, but there's no glut coming.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a thinning of the herd if you're not out building a brand and building fan base, and you can no longer just put a bottle on the shelf and hope it sells. It's and brands that could do that 3-4 years ago are now even struggling. That they're used to just, you put it on shelf, it sells, and now it's a hard time because there's so much choice and selection. You got to go support your brand with tastings and festivals and get the YouTubers behind you. It just takes a lot of effort to get exposed now. But there's definitely, I don't know if there's a glut coming, because there's a reason Elijah Craig sponsored the Ryder Cup over in Italy.
There you go. Well, I think we're gonna end it on that.
Yep.
But y'all, this has been a fun episode. I didn't know if we were gonna go this long just talking about the Daily Drinker, and I hope everybody kind of liked my take on the death of the Daily Drinker. But we all had a lot of good takes on what is the Daily Drinker, the people that we're talking to, this audience, the listeners, the book buyers, the blog readers, and it really kind of hit home for probably a lot of people that maybe we actually don't have it anymore. We were there at one point, and it is an evolution. It's a journey, and it's a lot of things that as we get into this hobby even more and more, you end up just kind of finding your path and end up all taking we all end up in the same place where we're going, you know what, I don't want this anymore. I want to try 50 different other things. But that is a journey that I think most people will eventually find. But we'll go ahead and start doing the sign offs here. So Ryan, Fred, thank you once again for joining on this.
Thank you.
Oh, it's Halloween too, so I want to say I really want to see you dress up this Halloween.
All right, I'll dress up as Ken.
Here we go. 3 Kens on the list. Add it now.
Which Ken
with 10 pounds of wax.
Yeah.
Old school Kenny Coleman. I got
the IT tick Ken.
There we go.
The khaki pants Kenny.
That's right.
All right. Well, guys, on my bottom, I'm gonna let you start. Go ahead and doing your sign off. So Blake, we'll start with you.
Yeah, we signing off with our favorite Daily Drinker or just whatever we would like.
You can, as long as the answer is it doesn't exist.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, as always fun to be here. Blake from Sealbox, and looking forward to the next one.
Brian.
All right, it was fun, guys. Thanks for number 86. Brian with Sip and Corn, Bourbon Justice, all that stuff. Favorite Daily Drinker, I'm with you. It really doesn't exist. It's just it's a group of favorites that I gravitate toward, and I'll keep going there. So fun one, guys. Thanks.
For sure. And Nick from Breaking Bourbon.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Nick, Breaking Bourbon. I'm not even going to attempt the favorite Daily Drinker. When people ask me that, I'm always like, I have no idea. Like, and they're like, how do you not know? Like, you like bourbon. You don't have. I'm like, no, I just like to try different things. That's what you should do too. But I do like trying to recommend things for people though, and get a sense of what they might like and what they've had before, and point them maybe at 2 or 3 that might be good ones for them to to start with. Of course everyone says, I had Bland's, I really love that, I want to find a bottle. Well, that's going to be kind of hard to do, so let's see if we can get some that is actually easily available and not $125 if you do find it. So yeah, fun topic. Thanks guys.
All right. Well, I guess next week we'll do the death of Blanton's and see if anybody listens. How about that one?
Let's do it.
Yeah, right.
There's a new book out on Blanton's Warehouse H.
It is. We talked about it.
Got it right here. I
know.
Yeah.
Mine just came in the mail. Look forward to reading it.
And that was a huge joke because there is no death of Blanton's. That's all people line up for. So that was that will always be around. Totally kidding there. Yeah. But this has been a fun episode. I really loved it, guys. Thank you so much for your input and maybe your validation. I really appreciate that too, because these are things that I tend to thinking about and wondering if people are thinking about this one as well. So make sure you're subscribing to Bourbon Pursuit and don't leave us a review. Please don't do that. But if you do like the show, share it with a friend. Tell somebody else that's getting into bourbon that thinks they have a Daily Drinker and say, you should probably listen to this and see what these guys think as well.
Is
So
that a new psychiatry trick to like tell people not to do a review?
Maybe. Let's see if it
That's-
works.
That's good. I'm like, because now I'm like, oh, I want to go give a review.
Yeah.
I already have, unfortunately, so
Yeah.
like, can't do anymore.
Well, that's why all of our 5 stars, it all comes from Fred just hitting and
God,
it over and over and over again.
Ding, 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 ding.
Rapid click. But that also follow our buddy Fred Minnick over here. You know how to find him, fredminnick.com, as well as all his other YouTube channels. But with that, cheers, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Vodka
Cheers.
sucks.
Toodles.
Cheers.
All right. We'll go ahead and call it that. And
So seriously,
now-
don't buy Blanton's, but do look at that book. It's got the best blurb I've ever read on the back.
Well, I do love his website. I
Is it
thought his
from
website
another
was a
famous
great
bourbon
treasure
writer
trove of
by
information.
chance?
It may be from another bourbon writer, but I don't know.
Kenny
Oh, is
doesn't
that what it
read
is?
books, so sorry, Brian. I'll read it to him.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Now,
just
Ryan,
read Kenny a bedtime story, Ryan.
Yeah.
me and you walked past that book at least a dozen times today.
We had shit to do, man. We had to pump our first barrel.
All right, yeah. So it was it's in the media like folder booker that I got shipped in. So it's on a table, but we didn't get opportunity to get to it.
Can we talk about the unfinished bed behind Kenny? I was looking
Yeah,
People
so-
were talking about that on the chat. Yeah, it's
Dude,
been
the
an
episode
active
of my
chat
God,
today. I
mattress.
love it.
mattress. The mattress is in
Pa-
route right now. I'm
Palladini sent
sorry.
it.
Yeah.
He
so
had a
we're-
guy tied up, chained up there before, but he moved him out of the scene for the video.
Yeah, you're
It
right.
would have been
Halloween
a good
theme.
Halloween background.
Yeah, Halloween.
Mhm. Yeah, it was funny. My wife was saying, she was like, people are going to give you shit. And I was like, what? Nobody's going to pay attention. And obviously,
will. Sure
people
enough.
paid attention.
It's like the wood like stave theme, right? You're going for that barrel.
Yeah, those are actually
Oh, yeah, the
toasted
barrel
French
staves,
oak staves, if that's a, yeah.
It's
Ambrana
pine
staves.
finished.
Yeah, that's maybe nobody's done pine finished yet.
Ooh.
And people
Not
like
yet.
Ambrana, they should love pine sol.
I don't think pine can hold liquid long enough for it
Doesn't
to work.
need to. You just insert the staves.
Mm.
Don't they have pine in Scotland for not for barrels, but for some of the vats? I mean, when I thought I
Cypress.
heard that,
Cypress.
I
No.
was thinking it was
I
pine.
wouldn't think it
And I
could
was
be
like,
pine,
God, that's
'cause
awful. Yeah,
Can't handle
pine.
moisture.
Yeah, it'd be
Just
awful.
disintegrate.
Yeah. Unless it's treated. You really don't want that though.
Well, yeah,
Let's say
you
it
don't
tastes a
want
little
that.
chemically.
Yeah, turpentine.
Well, boys, I got a jet. Am I uploaded?
Well, let's go ahead.
Leave it
We'll
on.
close it off, and then we'll go ahead and end the stream. But thank you, everybody that was on the chat. There was a lot of great comments, information, questions, everything that came up. So everybody on Facebook and YouTube and everything like that. And I think that I saw even one comment coming from LinkedIn.
Oh
Hey,
God,
There it is.
Ooh.
How about it? It's just LinkedIn user. Whatever.
Great for this on here.
yeah,
Sounds like
Don't
a
worry.
bot.
Most exciting
You'll
thing
get a
happening on
direct
LinkedIn
message
right now.
asking you'll get a direct message asking for a meeting to look for opportunities.
We hear you want to be in a group.
Thank you. Congratulations on your anniversary.
Wait, who?
Well, you brought
what?
in LinkedIn, so that's all
Oh,
I-
okay,
I
gotcha.
know.
Oh, yeah, your job anniversary. I got
Yeah,
it.
it's like I don't even know where I'm working right now. So I don't know what anniversary you're talking about.
Job?
Yeah, I'm glad you know because I didn't know.
Yeah. No clue. No clue. All right. Well, hey, guys, stick around. But again, thank you all for tuning in with the chat. And we'll be back here in another month with another roundtable as we head into probably the Thanksgiving edition.
Thanks.
I guess
Yeah,
you could
the
say.
turkey
Whoa,
episode.
turkey.
Yep. I wonder if we're talking about wild turkey.
Yeah, no.
Never.
Never.
All right.
What's a bourbon to drink besides wild turkey? Thanksgiving. That's what we should do. It pisses everybody off.
They probably
Well,
will.
I actually never
Or
recommend
Campari.
wild turkey for Thanksgiving. I don't think.
All right.
Bears-
Go real quick before I end the stream. Why not?
What's that? Right now?
Why not? I'm getting ready to end the stream, but before we do it, why not?
Why not? What?
Why you don't recommend
What
wild
You
turkey?
just
for-
said.
Oh yeah. Well, so sorry.
The thing you just said, Fred.
So I was in the middle of reading a message and then talking, so my brain wasn't all the way there. But basically, people pair it because it's what's on the label, right? It's
Turkey.
a branding thing. You're not licking the bottle, you're not licking the brand, so you want something that pairs well with it. And I love wild turkey, but I think it overpowers most turkeys unless you have a really fat one with a crispy skin. That's the only turkey it pairs with is a fat one with a crispy skin. But I actually like single malts better with turkey, and for the bourbon side, Woodford Double Oak.
How about it?
Wow.
Well,
There's the everyday
always
bourbon.
good.
There,
Fred just wrapped up the whole BCR 87 now too. So
yeah.
Yep, we're done.
Probably go ahead and skip
Go
that
straight
one.
to Christmas episode.
Yeah. There you go. Which we're only going to talk about Ambarana on that one, so we could probably just go ahead and go to New Year's.
Fuck that shit.
Good to hear that. Oh, the hate runs deep. All right,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
go ahead and end this